That's the transfer announcement that he will be entering the portal of wide receiver Xzavier Henderson, one of the Gators' probably likely starting wide receivers from this year. What do you guys take of that news that came out on Saturday afternoon?
Separated from UF better than he separated from some receivers in the 3 years that he was here. No hard feelings, I don't think, from either way. He's your leading receiver outside Ricky Pearsall, your most experienced receiver coming back. It's not a great thing for UF to not have Xzavier Henderson back in the fold, but I don't think it's detrimental to the offense.
Yeah, I said it last show. The receivers, regardless of how it started, I thought the veteran guys were just going to be ahead because they're acclimated to the college game. And they know the playbook. So I expected those guys to be ahead in spring, get more reps. But watching the spring game, watching these guys play over the last couple of years, they can't separate, and they're not that explosive. So I've been saying the last few shows that we're going to have to rely on young wide receivers, to be able to separate. They're explosive. Andy Jean, Aiden Mazzell, seeing him draw a couple pass interference because he was just blown by guys in the spring game was extra encouraging. It's not a great thing that he's leaving, but I definitely understand it. Do I think he's going to lose some reps probably in his last year before he gets this NFL audition? I think so. I said that last show. I think all the older guys, I wouldn't be surprised if another veteran wide receiver hit the portal. So that's just my overall take. I think we need to bring in a veteran wide receiver back into the fold in the portal as well. So an exit, we just need to find somebody to replace him. But he's definitely replaceable. Big Henderson, that whole family, I'm a fan of that family. It's probably best for both parties to, amicable separation.
Yeah, ends his career at UF with seasons of 148 yards, 277 yards, and 410 yards. Last season, 38 receptions, 410, 2 touchdowns, including a long of 78. Had a big game against Georgia statistically, including that 178-yard pass, goes for 5 catches for 110 yards. But I would say over 3 years, a relatively unremarkable career. Certainly has leadership, has speed, struggled a little bit, I would think, on punt return. But overall, a loss for the Gators, especially from an experience perspective. But I don't know if I saw him being a huge yard getter this year, just based on what we've seen before and what I would imagine Florida's offense will look like.
I mean, who is going to be a huge yard getter in this offense? I think if we're at an early over-under for passing yards per game, I said it at like 220. And I might take the under. Probably taking the under.
Not great.
No.
So where does that put Florida? I mean, obviously you have, the young guys. You add in Caleb Douglas in there. What do you think Florida looks like on the wide receiver starting 3 side of things besides Ricky Pearsall?
Yeah, I think Ricky Pearsall. Listen, can you move him outside a little bit? I don't think that's where he's best. But if you're trying to get the best guys on the field, if Trey Wilson comes in and is that dude and can start, let's say by week 3 inside, maybe you can move Ricky outside or have them both on the field at some times. That's some yards after catch. I think you can put it on the field. Caleb Douglas, Khalil Jackson, Andy Jean. Like, it's just, they're okay.
Yeah, I mean, not an inspiring group of leaders right now. Certainly, you have you have a lot of promise, right? A lot of people that have skill, a lot of people that we're excited about, a lot of people we've talked about on this podcast very glowingly. But certainly, I think the biggest issue that we're seeing right now is Florida doesn't have that experience, and they're going to rely on a quarterback that's definitely not as athletic as Anthony Richardson, but rely on a quarterback that can hopefully get you some decent production. And right now it just doesn't seem like a lot of the odds are stacked in favor of the Florida's offense outside of the running backs being super serviceable this year.
I mean, you're going to have to working on some best available at positions of need. for Gators Online this week, and I'll be hitting offensive line as well. I think you're going to have to get another guy on the offensive line. At Florida, I think I had Florida at 82 scholarships, 83 scholarships, so they're down to 79, 80, 78 range. I mean, you have someone like Adam Mahalek, who was on scholarship, added the scholarship for the spring. Does he stay on scholarship? So there's ways that they'll play around with that. But I think you're going to need to add an offensive lineman. Just watching how guys went down with injuries this year, it's going to be crucial to add guys that can play, either start or play in a pinch as depth pieces. So I think Florida's going to have to add, and the transfer portal it's not quite a buffet on either the offensive or defensive line. And then you look at guys in the SEC can't transfer within the conference because they won't be eligible to play because of an SEC rule this late in the cycle. So if anyone pops up from, an Alabama or an Ole Miss right now, I know Silk's on quarterback watch, on quarterback scouting duty. Like Jackson Dart would not be able to play for Florida at quarterback in 2024, or 2023. So you kind of are what you are unless we get some more names pop up. But I think Florida's going to be a team that predominantly runs the ball. You're going to have to throw the ball enough to keep teams honest, but you're going to need some backups. Like, what does Cam Waits come back from at 6'8", 350 pounds? What's the timetable and what's it look like to come back from an Achilles injury? What's Micah Mazuka look like after shoulder surgery? The injury that he had will affect everything you do when you're pushing, which is everything you're doing on the offensive line. So even when these guys come back, how healthy are they? What version of themselves are they? So to me, I have a lot of concerns about Florida's offensive line because it's going to have to be a team that runs the football. It has to run the football to win football games.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to make some upgrades. On offense, we definitely need, I'm going to say upgrades. We definitely need depth because of injury possibilities. We already struggling with some injuries in the trenches. But losing Xzavier Henderson, I mean, we lose maybe a couple terrible jet sweep calls a game, I think, and a guy that shouldn't have been on punt return duty, to be real with you. So it was like some bad fits. I don't know what he brought to the table that we're going to be missing that somebody else couldn't bring. He wasn't taking the lid off, wasn't causing defenses to stress at night about absolutely anything, in my opinion. So we'll see. I don't think that's a terrible exit, and we could possibly upgrade. We'll see what the skill position upgrades look like this offseason in the portal. But right now, I'm not. It didn't move me, man. I was already calling from a wide receiver youth movement. I've seen enough from these older guys. I'm not gonna keep beating that same dead horse, man. So was surprised. Yeah, was shocked that because I know he's a guy that loves Gainesville, loves University of Florida, has been a good teammate, good player, and a model citizen, model student around campus. So was shocked, but I get it.
Yeah. Tough loss for the locker room, probably more than anything, but certainly we wish him the best of luck and where he goes next. Nick, do you have any pontifications on where you think he might be headed, or Silk?
I think he could go home.
Miami.
Ew. I like that for Miami.
That's rude.
No, I do. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Louisville may be an option as well. I don't know what their wide receiver room look like, but I know he has relationships there. Yeah, he has a relationship out there. Yeah.
We'll certainly be on the lookout for him. The other big
there were a couple of wide receivers, real quick. There were a couple of wide receivers from Colorado. One is Montana Lamonius Craig, A+ name.
Keen Peele-Smith.
A+ name. He had 3 catches for like $159 in the spring game. He hit the portal. I think the other one's name is like Elijah.
While you look that up, Nick, you've just said that the Florida Gators are probably going to average 225 yards or less on throwing the ball. Why would a wide receiver like that want to come to Florida?
Couldn't tell you, Dan, but didn't know why a running back would want to come and in my mind at the time, sit behind Montrell and Trevor Etienne. So you get Cam Carroll to come, and he looked great in the spring.
Yeah. I guess you never know. I don't see that happening. Based on some of the things that I read about him, that this has been a bit of a work in progress, and used the spring game with Deion's help to kind of show out to increase his opportunity. I don't know if I see him coming to Florida. I do worry about Florida's ability to attract. Graham Mertz is, in my opinion, a serviceable quarterback. I'm maybe a little higher on him than Nick is, but you look at what Florida's offense will likely be this year, and I just don't know, unless you're a multi-year guy, if there's a huge opportunity for you to come to Florida and be a super impactful wide receiver to help your draft stock. I don't see that offense here.
I didn't see it in Miami, but apparently we have a receiver going down there. It's weird we're recruiting in the transfer portal. I think opportunity and just snaps is a thing. Big stage, platform to be able to perform in the SEC. All of that's an opportunity. It's going to be hard for any Porter guys to go find a successful quarterback to go play for. Most of those programs are loaded with receivers. They have their guys, especially as far as starters. So there may be, just because of opportunity-wise, I think we'll be able to get a guy just from an opportunity standpoint, in my opinion, because if you're looking for 1 year to play ball, it's not going to absolutely be with a contender with a great quarterback. You may just need a platform like Cam Carroll, the running back. He could have played a lot of different programs and probably got more snaps, but he's going to be playing on a big stage in the SEC, and that could do a lot for your career as far as like getting drafted.
Yeah. It was Chase Sowell, the other name you were thinking of, Nick, wide receiver in Colorado. Yeah. I don't see an Elijah on the roster, but Chase Sowell, which seems like the exact opposite name of Elijah, has also entered the portal. I think that you're going to start to see a lot more over the next 48 hours of big names. And we'll talk about the transfer portal a little bit more. I know Florida's gone after a few other folks, but the Gators did have another name that was, I don't know if is as surprising, but definitely a loss for the Gators as well. Antwaun Powell-Ryland, who was the outside linebacker, edge, buck, whatever, has announced that he too will enter the transfer portal this season. And there's some rumors about that are unsubstantiated at the time. But your thoughts on Antwaun Powell-Ryland entering the transfer portal, boys?
Go ahead.
It's a depth loss. Princely moving over there is going to start. I think Justice Boone and Princely kind of can be swing pieces, playing defensive end, and Jack playing the edge. I still think you need another edge player, and I think you needed one in the portal before Antwaun Powell-Ryland Jr., the seventh of his name, House of Dragons, left. So I think I don't think it's a huge loss for Florida. He played well when he took over for Brenton Cox, but I think he'll probably look in a guy who might transfer down a little bit and get more playing
time. I think that he's a fine player. I think that he might have had even a bigger impact on the defense than Xzavier Henderson was offensively, at least statistically. I was a little bit higher on Powell-Ryland than maybe some others. But I also know that there should be some excitement about Kelby Collins and a few of the other folks that are at that position being able to make an impact as well this year. I don't think that he was going to start, but losing depth pieces is unfortunate, right? I know it's part of the business and everything else. But to me, that's kind of what separates, your good to great teams is not just the talent, but it's the depth right behind that. And I don't know if Florida will be able to upgrade over Powell-Ryland. I think maybe they'll be able to find a body to fit into that spot, but it's I guess part of the game of football.
Yeah, that's going to be a battle for all coaches going forward, keeping quality depth because transfer portal allows you to be able to be a little bit flexible. If you're not playing, you see you're getting passed up in the spring to kind of hit that portal. So it's hard to sell kids on being patient. And that's going to be another thing to monitor just with new college football, the way it's all set up. You got to continue to not just recruit college ranks, and you got to recruit your roster as well while kids are going through, position battles. But we got depth at the position. There's an opportunity to add somebody to that room. But yeah, I didn't want to see him go. To me, like Dan said, I think this is more detrimental than the Xzavier Henderson, but we can definitely afford to lose somebody at that spot. But you just need quality depth in the trenches in the SEC, man, just because of attrition and everything else, man. Keeping fresh bodies and injuries always happen. So didn't want to see him leave. And yeah, I was out there, man, in Denver, and I just started getting texts about just weird rumors. I don't know what's going on, but I was enjoying my vibe, so I didn't really entertain it or text you guys about it. But there were a lot of rumors about this transfer.
Yeah, we those seemingly are unsubstantiated right now, but
Princely Umaneelan said, "What fight? Nobody got any fights, man. Like it's all made up." Is what he said. I don't know. I'm not on the team. Just read a tweet as I was vibing this week.